Hello everyone. Alright, today I'm just going to shoot a few rounds. I'll make my last round that 2 liter right up front. Here we go. Alright, let's get that Nazi out of the way. Okay, and there's a bird. Oh, alright, blue target. Let's see. Red target. And let's see here, the red target in the back. Alright, and the 2 liter up front. Ah! Click. I'm out of bullets. Those are my last 5 bullets. I can't end without getting that 2 liter. I have an idea. It just occurred to me that all I have to do is go inside and make another one, and I can get that 2 liter. All right, here I am in the room. Let's take care of this. Can I get out there and get that 2 liter? I'm not going to let it sit. What else am I going to do? I'm out of bullets. It's really just as simple as that. I have to take care of that. Okay. Now I think I'm ready to go. 2 liter right up front. Blew that thing away. All right, everybody, have a great day. Actually, hold on just for 1 second. So my main intent for this video is really just to give you an informational video about reloading. This is not a reloading. This is not a lesson in how to reload. I'm more showing you what I do. Okay, so let me just show you what I have on my table first. What I have over here are my bullets. Okay. And what I have specifically here are 357 or 38 special bullets. These are jacketed hollow points, 158 grain. I have my empty casings for 357 Magnum. I have my scale, my electronic scale. I have my balance scale right here. And this is just a few completed rounds that I've already made and where I store them after I make them. Here's my here's my powder, my smokeless powder right here. And here's my safety glasses, which I'm going to put on right now. Because when you reload, you really should wear glasses. The reason why you wear safety glasses is because you just never know when something might go wrong with the primer. And the primer is what gives the bullet that initial explosion, which lights the powder, and that lets the bullet fly. Okay, so when you're now I have not had this yet, it has not happened to me, but when I'm pressing that primer into the primer pocket, there's a chance that I could get a little explosion. Now it's not going to destroy the room or anything. It's just going to be really loud, and I'm going to make sure I have these safety glasses on. But anyway, let me go ahead and show you what I do here. Now before I actually start with anything, with any kind of reloading, what I do is I take a case and I turn it to my powder die here. And what I'm doing first is I'm going to make sure I have the correct weight of powder before I start. So I'm going to turn my electronic scale on, and I'm going to balance that out. Now I'm going to run, I don't know, 3 or 2, 3, 4, I'm not sure, drops of powder, and I'm going to weigh it. And that's 7.6 grains. So I use my electronic scale initially, because it gives me the weight really quick, and then I pick it up, put it back down, it gets 7.7 grains. So you can get off by a tenth. Sometimes I like to use my balance scale because these are supposedly even more accurate, and I have my balance set to 7.7 grains. This takes a little longer because you have to wait for the arm to stop moving up and down, but it looks like it's hovering around the point where I need it to be. And then I'll just dump this powder back in the main container, put it back on, and I'm going to do a couple more drops of powder. .7, and one more time I'll use the balance. What I've noticed is that my electronic scale and my balance scale are both pretty much equal in their accuracy. I get pretty much the same results with both. I like to start out by doing both at first. And that looks good to me. And I'm going to do just a couple more pulls here with the powder. I'll just use the electronic scale for speed. 7.5, and I don't like when I get that kind of difference. Now it says 7.6, and I'm okay with 7.6. I really don't want to go over 7.7 because that's the maximum load according to my reloading book for this particular powder with this particular bullet that I'm using. So if it's a little under, I'm not going to go crazy over that. That's a lot under. Now it says 7.5. Originally it said 7.4. One thing I've noticed about these Lee Classic turret presses is that they're finicky. There's no question about it. And the powder measure in particular, not the measure, but the auto drum powder, they call it the auto drum powder measure, is finicky, and it's just not as accurate as I'd like it to be. But again, like I said, as long as it's not going too much over, that's the main thing. I don't want an overcharged bullet cartridge, I should say. Okay, and by the way, you may have heard people say it's not a bullet. You know, this is not a bullet. It's a cartridge, right? And of course, it's not focusing for me. I can't make it focus, right? So I'm just going to ignore that. But anyway, these are cartridges. You know, once you get into reloading, it becomes pretty obvious that you really can't call this a bullet because this is a bullet. Okay? The bullet is what I'm going to put into the case. But the entire thing together, the casing, the primer, the powder, and the bullet, is known as a cartridge. Okay, I think I'm ready to go ahead and do a few, and I'm going to go ahead and reset this. So the way reloading works, at least the way it works for me, there's a lot of different ways to reload. I'm doing it with the Lee Classic Turret Press, which means that every time I pull this handle, what's going to happen, and I'll show you right now, it's going to turn to a different die. So I have 4 dies on here. The first die is what they call the resizing die, as well as the decapper. And so this die does two jobs here, and I'm going to go ahead and do that first job right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my casing in the shell holder. I'm going to put it into the die, and the first thing it's going to do is it's going to resize my my casing. Now, as I get to the very top, as this goes to the top, the next thing that's going to happen is that there's a little pin in there that's going to push the old primer out. And there it goes. So now the old primer is out, and the casing is way up in this die, and it's been resized. Now you might say, resized, you know, what's that all about? Well, when you fire a round out of a gun, the casing expands. It gets bigger. So like I say, I have the casing inside of the die. It's been resized. the primer has been knocked out. Now the next thing I'm going to do with this Lee Classic Turret Press, you get this primer safety arm here. What do they call it? The safety prime is what they call it. So this has primers inside, and I'm just going to push this forward, press, and now I have a primer in this little thing right here. And they all have names, and I can't remember the names of every part. Now I'm going to bring the casing out, and this is the part that you really have to have glasses, because as I push this primer into the casing, there is that chance that if I crush that primer, it could explode, and if it does, it'll be on camera. But it hasn't happened yet. Here we go, and that's that. So if I take this out, and again, I'm not even dealing with the whole focus thing because that adds minutes to my video, but now I have a brand new primer in the bottom of this casing. Okay, put that back in there. I'm going to take it up again. Now we're now in the expander die. Forgot the name of it for a second. So this is called the expander die, and it's also where we known as a powder through die, in that the powder is going to drop from here through here and directly into the casing. But it's also called the expander die because when you resize this casing, you definitely cannot fit a bullet in here. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's going to expand the rim of the case just a little bit, put a little flare on there, just enough so that I can start to seat that bullet in there. And I had to make that adjustment little by little. I'm not talking about all the crazy adjustments I had to make to these dies to get them exactly where I wanted to. That takes forever. So that's why this is not a, I'm not teaching you how to reload here. This is just, just for your information. Anyway, put it back in here. What's going to happen is I'm going to get that casing up into the die, and it's going to put that little flare at the very top of the casing, and at the same time it's going to dump some powder in. And now it's done. Now I'm not going to remeasure it because you already saw me measure 3 or 4, and the powder is where I need it to be. So it's going to turn again. This is what makes it a turret press. And now I'm ready for what we call the seating die. And the seating die has also been carefully adjusted so that this bullet goes into the casing exactly the amount that it needs to be. And it does have to be exact for a number of reasons. Now, right now, I can just put that bullet right on there. It's not going to fall off because that the top of the casing has been flared out to fit the bullet. All right, now I'm going to push it through the die, and it's going to seat that bullet to the exact overall length that I need. Okay, and there it goes. Now what I like to do is I like to measure. So I have my digital calipers, and I'm getting 1 inch, 1.573 inches. And according to my book, the overall length for this particular powder with this particular bullet should be 1.575. And 1.573 is close enough for me. I'll have other variations than that, but this is fine. Now I'm not finished with this yet. We've put the bullet into the casing, but what I have to do next is I have to crimp the casing into the bullet to make sure the bullet doesn't wiggle its way out under recoil, being that this is a revolver round. Okay, so anyway, we're going to go to the final die, which is the Crimp Die, which has also been very carefully adjusted to get the exact crimp I need. Now it's nice and smooth. That's sort of this transition between the casing and the bullet, and it pretty much feels like a factory bullet. And it has the powder in there, and this is ready to go. All right. So that was a very long explanation of making one cartridge. I'm going to go ahead and make a few more a little faster so you can see the process. All right, let's resize. Primer's out. set up the new primer. New primer in. Powder in. Flares happened. Set the bullet up. Bring it up. It's set. Crimp it. And that's a cartridge right there. I'm going to measure, and I don't measure every single one, but I go, so I have 1.576. If I press a little harder, I get 1.575, exactly what I'm looking for. So there we go with that. All right. And by the way, all these casings, of course, before I'm using them, I had to clean them and polish them. I didn't have to polish them, but I think I do have to clean it. So I did both, and I have some tools for that as well. All right, let's make a few more. I'm probably not as quick as some people. And that looks good to me. Another thing that clues me into whether this is the right size is that the crimp is going to go right into some grooves that are in the bullet itself. And I can see that it's right there, exactly where it needs to be. All right, and one more. And there we go. Simple as that. I say simple as that, but I'm telling you this, it's not so simple, all the setup. So if you want to get into reloading, it takes some work. It takes some fiddling around with. You have to be willing to experiment with things and ask questions. I've done a lot of questioning online on some forums, some reloading forums, and gotten a lot of help there. In fact, before I made the video, I sent an email to the company asking for a new part for this powder measure because it's just finicky and it's not working as well as I think it should. But anyway, that's what I do, and considering that 357 Magnum ammo to get factory ammo is very hard to get still, and when you do find it, it's very expensive. 9mm has gotten much easier to find. You can get that anywhere pretty much now. It's still a little more money than I think it should be, but I don't know that I'm going to keep making 9mm. It's done, of course, the same way, although I have to use a different set of dies. And here they are for 9mm. So you can see that this is what would go right into the press right here, and I would have to take the powder measure off and screw that onto here for 9mm. And I also have 45 Colt right here, and you know, if I didn't take the time, you know, to spend the extra, what, $10 to buy these extra discs, I'd have to reset each of these dies every single time, and that I don't think I would enjoy. So I'll fix that later. And 45 Colt is even rarer these days than a 357 Magnum, and even more expensive. So I'm glad that I'm doing that as well. If I ever get myself a 44 Magnum, I'm going to reload for that as well. But anyway, I hope you found all this interesting, and thanks for watching. Have a great day.